Welcome to Successful Life Podcast. I am your host, Corey Barrier, and I am here with Roland Santus. And he builds, right. So most people think it's Roland Santos. That's what I thought. So Roland builds outbound sales and marketing strategies for other entrepreneurs. He's got a fascinating story from where he came from, the things he's done, and in successful, both successes and failures. So Roland, I want you to walk the audience through what you walked me through the first time I heard your story, because I'm pretty damn sure they're going to be wowed just as much as I was.
First of all, thanks for having me, Corey. Much appreciated.
Absolutely, dude. Thank you.
Look, everyone has their successes, everyone has their fails in business. That's part of life. For me, probably I think the point where we first started really talking was sharing probably my story probably from the last couple of years. So I was quite a successful businessman. I don't really like to use the word entrepreneur, but it's there. A successful businessman, and I made an investment on a couple of businesses and I lost everything.
So when you say everything, tell me, what is that? When you say everything, literally everything, or like you lost everything and had, some money, what does that look like?
So for me, I lost my house, all the cars. The only money I had left in my bank account was 49 pence.
Which is how much dollars?
Say again?
How much is that in American dollars?
49 pence. That's like maybe 15 cents, 20 cents.
Oh shit. Okay.
So I literally had nothing. My relationship broke down. It was just I lost my self-esteem. I lost my confidence. I lost as a human being completely. I just felt like a complete failure. When they talk about rock bottom, there was no, I couldn't even afford food. Like it was nothing at all. Everything was shut down. Bank accounts were shut down. Like literally nothing. The clothes on my back was probably what we were left with, and probably enough to fill up the back of a small boot and a small trailer. And the most of that stuff was my boys' stuff. I've got two boys, so most of it was like the kids' clothes. Because when like things like debt collectors and that come, they don't take the kids' stuff. They take everything else.
Right. Now, how long did this process take? Was this you said a couple of years? I think you said a couple of years ago, or it took a couple of years for this to happen.
So this happened on the final sort of like D-Day, as I call it, was 11 a.m. on the 24th of May 2017.
Oh wow!
That's when we officially left where we were. We lived in a place called Henley-on-Thames, which is a beautiful part of the UK. It's very, very affluent. It's a very affluent area. So you can imagine kind of like, the kind of lifestyle we had.
Right.
It was good. So but the process itself, if I go back a little bit further, I invested into business probably in the November before that.
Okay.
So we're talking a good 6-7 months. And I had some money, I invested into a construction company. And it's my fault. I didn't do enough due diligence on it. I was kind of on a bit of a roll with a number of different businesses. They were all starting to gain traction. It was all doing really well. Everything was kind of, life was good. Life was great. And so I put some money into this, and it was like a sinking ship. It's the guy had a lot of debt, which I hadn't he basically hidden from me, and I hadn't looked enough into it. And it was just, it just started this whole ricochet of events and sequences that every time I tried to fix it, it made it 100 times worse and accelerated the negative impact that was happening. So when I had someone that was go, right, we try and pay this bill off for this debtor, for the company and stuff like that, and we get 5 more debtors that come up and go, well, if you've paid that person, then you've got to be able to pay us. So money was just going out. Like, it was easier for me to flush it down the toilet, put it that way.
So, well, and this was due to you being tied with this guy, right? You were in business with him, so therefore it was almost like a marriage. You took on his debt, so to speak.
Yeah, so I was majority shareholder, so I had 51% of the shares, and I just bought into it. Now, like I said, totally my fault. I didn't do enough due diligence on it, so the accounts that I'd had were not the actual true accounts. But by the time I'd found out and saw that it was too late, all the legal stuff was on there. I had to take ownership of it, and ultimately it brought me down completely. And it took about 6 months for it to happen. And each time it happened, it chipped away at my confidence. I was a very, very confident guy. Like, I could walk into a boardroom and just, wouldn't even phase anything. However, having an argument with my two kids, however, that would always be a different story. But
they always seem to win sometimes, right?
They do. They're amazing negotiators.
Yes.
Completely relentless. But yeah, so that's basically where it all started, and we moved back to Bristol, and we were staying in my father's room. We had nowhere to go, so nothing at all. And I was trying to work out where and how to rebuild and what the next steps were, really. Everyone was telling me to just get a job and forget about running my own business and all that sort of stuff. And I was kind of like, I was just pig-headed enough to go, no.
Sure.
I was going to figure out a way to do it. I just needed some time. And I battled a lot. I became very, very withdrawn. You didn't really talk to many people, didn't talk to anyone, didn't want to have anything to do with anyone at all. I was a very angry person, angry with the world, and I blamed the world for essentially what was always my fault and my mistake. So anyway, it escalated further. My father ended up kicking us out. We had a big disagreement. He kicked us out, and we were just homeless. We had nowhere to go, nothing to do.
Oh, this was you and your two boys?
Yes, yeah. So we had nowhere to go. And it wasn't until my sister eventually took us in, and we spent the next 4 months. The boys had we'd got them like a little mattress; they could sleep on the floor, and I slept on like a mattress topper in her front room. So we were just basically living in her front room for the next 4 months. And it was just somewhere safe. Obviously, it's family, so it was okay. It was nice. It wasn't ideal, but hey, you just got to roll with the punches sometimes. You really have. But it allowed me, the mentality that my younger sister had was very much mine, in that you work for it, you'll get it. You just got to keep grinding. You got to keep going. Eventually, it's going to happen. So I was able to put the boys into school, which was always helpful. So they weren't constantly around me, because I was still quite negative at that point. I wasn't in a great frame of mind. I dealt a lot with suicidal thoughts, an awful lot, and there were many times where I literally thought, if I end it now, they're going to be better off. Everyone's going to be better off. It's going to be easier. And thankfully, I didn't. I'm glad. I'm glad I didn't.
I'm glad you didn't too.
A lot of anxiety, but just loads of self-doubt and stuff like that. I still suffer with it today. It does happen, quite a lot more than probably I admit, if I'm honest. But yes, it was just a tough time, and all I had my camera, my photography camera. That's all I had, and I was like, right, I'm gonna set up a media business. I knew sales and marketing, so before all this happened, I grew businesses predominantly in the restaurant trade. I started from the restaurant trade, and then I kind of like worked my way through. So I've contributed about 109 million pounds worth of growth sales in the last 8 years. I'm not sure what that is in dollars.
Me either.
But it's probably quite a lot, though.
Okay.
It's up there, and that's across 10 different industries in about 6 different countries.
Wow.
I was always renowned for, I was known as a troubleshooter. So if a business was in trouble, I would go in and turn it around. And there are many case studies that I've got of things that I've kind of turned around and stuff like that. So I always knew how to grow businesses. It was just unfortunate that my biggest failure was my own business, but thankfully it was my own business.
Sure.
And not a client's, and that's why it's 109 million, not more, because I had to deduct obviously what I lost.
Right.
I'm very honest on that. I'm very honest on that.
So you mentioned something a moment ago about, going through anxiety and suicidal thoughts and the struggles of even now being an entrepreneur. I think after talking to as many people as I have and my own personal, process, is I think a lot of us go through that.
Yeah.
And I think it's because this is not an easy thing to do. Being an entrepreneur is not easy. People think you own your own business. So life is just, this different life that's so much better than everybody else. You got to work really fucking hard to be in business for yourself. Really fucking hard. And you got to take a bunch of punches to the mouth. And if you don't get back up, then, you'll just get run the fuck over. So sorry, I just wanted to interject that because I think if the people that are listening, I want them to understand, if you're thinking about starting a business, guess what? It's not going to be, as Andy says, rainbows and whatever, unicorns or whatever he says, at the same time, it is very rewarding once you get that traction that you spoke about earlier. So,
yeah.
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I mean, it's an important thing. Like for me, I've always been in this space, but maybe that's something we'll touch on later as to why I'm as crazy as I am. But yeah, so back to the camera. So I could do photography, but I wasn't what I considered a photographer.
Okay.
And I think there's a big difference between taking a picture and taking a picture.
Yes. My wife is a photographer, so yes,
exactly.
Without a doubt, you're right. Without a doubt.
Yep. I know you understand. That's why I said it like that. So
yes.
For me, I was like, right, how do I become good? That someone will actually pay me. That was my thought. It was like, how can I make money? And I think lots of people look at problems and they go, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do that. But if you change it to go, how can I do this? Your brain will start figuring out things and stuff that you could do. Like I came with a list of ideas, my boys they're pretty good looking. So I was like, right, I can put them into modeling. I can go back to being a chef or something like that short term. I can go and sweep this. Like there's loads of different things you can do. And for me, I was like, I want something creative. I need to exercise that muscle again, because that's how I was successful with business before. Was I was creative enough to look at the problem from a different dynamic, tackle it on a different angle, and 9 times out of 10 it worked.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
So I started just taking photos, and I started off with very simple things. I decided I was going to go and target restaurants. And that was, I suppose, my first niche. Like we touched a little bit earlier when we were just talking about kind of niches and stuff like that. And that's where I was like, right, let me just focus on food. I understand food. I know that, I know that trade. I speak their language. It's a natural step to start. So I started making food and just taking pictures and experimenting with light and going on YouTube and watching loads of YouTube videos and talking to friends of mine and people that were photographers and going outside and shooting like landscape photography and stuff like that. So I understood how lighting worked. And then I'd spend hours on Lightroom learning how to color grade and stuff like that. And I became obsessed, is probably the easiest way for me to put it, in just this one task. And I did this solidly for a month. And my goal was to shoot 10,000 photos. That was my goal. And I actually have them down in my front room now. I have my 10,000th photo. my 10,001th and my 10,003rd. Sorry, yeah, first and second. Sorry, and they're hanging up on my wall.
Awesome. What are those? What are the pictures of?
None of them are of food.
So where you started at day one, it has nothing to do with 10,000 pictures later. So
absolutely nothing, and that's a big lesson for business anyway.
Yes.
Is that what you start off with, what you think is the right thing is not always the right thing. My three are actual landscapes, and one is street photography, which is one of my boys.
Okay.
And it's a black and white, and it's a graffiti of George Michael. In Bristol, they're quite big on graffiti and stuff like that. So when you see a good one, you have to take the picture quickly, because normally within 24 hours it gets painted over.
No shit.
So it's like, and this was just, it was, I remember it vividly. It was pouring down with rain. My littlest one was with me. My other one kind of moved ahead. He was with his mum. We were kind of like out for the day, kind of working out some stuff, and she had the umbrella, and I just literally just went bang. Just instinctively had that moment to just take it. And I looked, and it was 10,001, and I was like, okay, cool. All right, I got that one. And the other two are of a sunrise and of the blue hour.
The blue hour.
Which is the hour before sunrise or the hour after sun. It's when everything's that beautiful midnight blue.
So we call it the gold. Autumn, my wife calls it the golden hour.
Yeah, so there's the golden hour, which is when just before the sun's coming up. So just before that, this is where, let's say the hour before that.
Right.
Not a lot of people see it because most people are asleep, but I get up at 4 a.m. So, I see it all the time. There is a beautiful, beautiful blue glow around the whole world. And it's it's that bit in between complete darkness and that golden hour. And if you're in the right place and you go out to the city and stuff like that, you can get the most beautiful pictures coming out of it.
Yes.
And I happened to be up. I'd been up at 4 a.m. I'd gone out. The boys were staying with their mum. And I'd gone out, and I was like, right, okay. And I saw it, and I was walking along, and my intention was to go and shoot a different photo in a different place at golden hour. But I literally just walked along, and I saw the river, and kind of these. I'll WhatsApp you the picture, because it's a pretty crazy one, and it just looks stunning. And I took that picture. So that one, the sunset one, and the other one, I sold for £100 each.
Shit.
So yeah, £99. Yeah. So I don't know what that is in dollars. Like what? Maybe is it 80?
I don't know, but it's more than what you started out with, the 49-cent pin.
Exactly. Yeah.
So when you sell when you sell the picture, do you keep the original?
Yep.
And then, but you sell like a print, or you sell the whole rights to it, or how does that work?
No, so I like to barter a lot. Like, okay. I will barter on anything I possibly can. Okay. Not because I'm I'm stingy with money and stuff like that, but just because it's a good exercise that I think everyone should learn how to do.
Sure.
And you'd be surprised what you can get away with as well, and what you can develop. And it's how people did stuff before money. You used to a chicken, a goat, right? All that, well, it's the same thing. And some parts of the way, and you'll understand when I talk about my childhood as to why I like bartering so much. So I bartered with a printer and said, look, I haven't got any money, but I've got these 3 photos that I want to sell. What do you need that I can provide you that you can do me these prints for free? And he said, well, what have you done before? So we talked about the whole story. And he said, I'm having real problems getting sales. I said, okay, I'll tell you what. I'll build you a simplified sales program that you can follow step by step. And you can do it on a weekly basis. And it'd be like 2-3 tasks every single day. And in return, you print me 3 or 4 copies of these photos in a high grade thing. And he's like, yeah, fine, no problem. Handshake deal, done. I built the program. He did that. And then I literally went to a couple of tourists, because Bristol's got big tourist spots. Okay. And I had the prints there. And I was like, they're £100.
And you just
It was like,
sold them.
done. Now that led on then. So then I was like, hang on, wait a minute. My light bulb's going now. You know, the seed had been planted. It was time to build the forest. You know, it's so I started going back to these tourist spots, and with my camera, and talking to tourists and saying, hey, look, you know, you've got this iconic bridge in Bristol called the Clifton Suspension Bridge. Lots of people are taking photos, but they're not great photos. So I used to have my phone and I have my camera, and I would charge them £20 per photo to take the picture, edit it on my phone, and email it to them there and then.
Wow.
And I would drop the boys off to school. I would go up there on a good day when I knew there was going to be lots of tourists, and I would literally sell. And for every 10 no's, I got one yes, and that was £20. And that meant that we could eat. I could put electric and power into the flat. Yeah, and it was, and that's how it kind of how I started to kind of build it up. And I used to give some money to my sister.
Okay.
In the
You were
beginning,
still living there at the time, right?
yeah, so we were there for like, so this was over the course of like 4 months.
Okay.
Right?
All right. Yes.
So I was doing all these things, and I was still going to all these restaurants and coffee shops and trying to get to do contracts with them for marketing. And I think after about the 20th one of someone saying no to me, I sat in this coffee shop and I just went, by any chance, do you need any marketing done? I can do photography, I can do this. And the owner literally went, actually, yes, we do. He's like, how much do you charge? I was like, what's your budget? So he said, and we agreed on a price, and it was enough. And I said, right, I need you to pay me 3 months up front because I've been messed around before. And he was like, okay, fine. Paid 3 months up front. A week later, I put the deposit down on a flat for me and the boys. We moved into a flat, and the process started. Then it was like, right, I had one contract in the can. Then the next week I got a second contract, then a third, then a fourth, and they started building. And before I knew it, I was scaling very fast, which is what I knew how to do. So we moved out on my sister's, and you know, things were good, things were better. And it turns out that the coffee shop owner then decided that he knew I'd been in restaurants and stuff like that, and what I'd done and grown. And he said, look, I know you haven't got loads of money, but what about if you stop doing this, stop doing the media, and I give you shares in the coffee shop business, and you run the coffee shop business for me, and then we'll split the shares. And I was like, this is a no-brainer. Let's do it. Let's just get it done. So I did that. So the coffee shop, when I took it over, was making about 4,500 a week.
Okay.
Which is, it's okay.
For a coffee shop, sounds pretty decent.
Yeah. 9 months later, it was doing £19,500 a week.
Wow.
And I had 3 deals on the table to then expand it and ready to go. Well, that's where it got interesting. We were living, you know, we were doing well, we were doing better. Things were budgeting, things were good. The boys were happy. I was getting in a better place, getting my confidence back and things like that. My business partner at the time then, excuse me, sold the business from underneath me.
The coffee shop.
The coffee shop, sold it. Again, I'd made another mistake. I hadn't looked at the legalities of it, of what the contract was. It went to court. It got thrown out. I had no rights. Effectively, I'd worked for free for 9 months, pretty much.
Oh, shit.
So then I was in a real pickle. And this was about the time that I kind of joined Arte, actually.
Okay.
And so I was in this kind of like mess, and I spent the summer trying to fight my way through this. So this was 2018 now. So it's only a year ago, not long ago, right? So I was fighting, and I went back to this state of camera, tourists, £20, go, and started building back up. I'd work in car washes. I'd do whatever I could to try and keep the lights on. I think I lived off beans and rice for like the next year, pretty much. You know, the boys had really good food. I lived off beans and rice and and noodles,
Right.
you know, to make sure that it was fine. And each time I was battling that mentality of I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I should just give it in, find a job, do this, do that. Like all those negative thoughts that you kind of get. And I had to really suffocate all of that out and almost close myself off from anyone and everyone that had any negative approach to me whatsoever, which means I cut off all of my family, what was left of them.
Sure.
A lot of friends that I had, they were gone. And it basically, my circle became me and the boys and a few people within the UK that were in Arte, because we had the similar mindsets. They understood.
Now, let me ask you what, I think a lot of people don't know how to cut those negative influences out, whether they be family or a friend from that you've had for 20 or 30 years. And can you just kind of go into, just for a moment, what it did for you by shedding those people and kind of joining up with people with the same mindset?
So it wasn't an easy process. It never is, because there's a lot of emotion involved when you're making that sort of decision. And when I did it, although for maybe a day or so, and this is not me being harsh, probably for about a day, I felt really bad thinking what had I done. And then when I woke up the next day, I just felt light. I felt like, even though I had a lot of pressures, I had debt collectors banging on my door. We were, living off effectively £5-10 a day, because I might not always get that money in, because it might rain, or it might, I live in the UK. At the end of the day, it rains all the time,
Sure.
So there was lots of adversity going on, but cutting those people out and not pushing them is the wrong word, moving them to an acceptable distance that they were no longer impacting me on a daily or weekly basis, allowed me to breathe. And my boys felt it, and I felt it, and the people that I was surrounded with then, they felt as well, just by the way that I would talk, my body language when I was on social media, the way that I was able to get up in the morning and just focus solely on my morning routine and my evening routine. Those were key elements that anchored me, which I always thought I was doing well at, until I pulled those people out. And it was because of those two routines is how I was able to pull those people out. So having that evening routine solidified and that morning routine, solid discipline there, naturally over time I was progressing. And whilst I didn't want to have that difficult conversation, they were naturally moving away from me as well anyway, because they felt awkward and going, well, look, he's doing his own thing now. So when it came to me saying, hey, look, I can't come around anymore. You have to give these, they're almost not excuses, but reasons why you can't go out on a Friday night with them. And it can't be related to work.
Right.
So, look, I was just going, look, the boys aren't very well. For me, I had an easy kind of scapegoat thing,
I'm not gonna lie. I would say I would lie if I'd say I had not used that before.
Yeah, it's like, or it was, they'd be like, oh, do you want to go for a coffee? I've got a meeting. Or I'll try and make it if I can, but so you almost like you feed it that you don't 100% commit to them, so they understand that if you don't turn up, they're not going to be as upset with you.
Sure.
And it allows you enough time to basically just step back without it being an issue. Over time, they then just stop asking.
Right. So it's a progression.
It's a progression. Yeah, you can't. I think this is the mistake that a lot of people make, because you hear it all the time. Is your success level is the 5 people that you go around and stuff like that, and cut everyone out and do this. Like, so in everyone's heads, it's going, what? So I need to like not talk to my family now? Like just pick up the phone and so I'm not talking to you anymore? No. everything's progressional.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you have to do bit by bit, but you have to start with you first on making that decision that those people, whilst you still want them in your life because they're family, their blood, their friends, whatever they are, they need to be on a very big outer circle.
Sure,
Of you.
absolutely.
And they're ones that you meet up with maybe once a month, once a quarter, Christmas.
Right.
You know, that's the easiest one for like family. You meet them at Christmas, you meet them at Easter, you guys have got Thanksgiving and 4th of July and stuff like that. So there you go. That's when you do your family stuff.
Sure. Which
The rest of the time,
quarter, yeah.
Leave them alone.
That makes total sense.
The same with friends. If you go out every Friday and Saturday, start going out just on the Friday or the Saturday, and then over time go out every other Saturday, then once a month, then once every couple of months, and you slowly progress through. It hasn't got to be this whole cut everything dead right now. Like, I don't believe in that at all. Like, because I've had that happen to me. When I lost everything, it was bang. 1 minute we woke up with money, next minute we woke up with nothing. And it's that short, sharp shock. Whilst for some people it can be really good, for the majority of us, it's a short-term way of failing again and failing 100 times harder than you did the first time, because your body and your mind hasn't adjusted to the situation that you're currently at. So it then can't adjust to then regrowing and rebuilding.
Sure. Wow. Okay.
That was a long-winded way of me saying don't cut them off straight away.
Right. That makes total sense. I think it's a great way to look at it and a great approach for sure. So yeah. All right. So you mentioned the childhood.
Yeah.
You want to go there for a moment?
Yeah. So this, I think, is where I'm wired a little bit differently.
Okay.
Quite a few people. So I was born and bred in a circus family. So
I don't know what that
proper
means.
Circus,
circus family, right?
Circus family, yeah. So not like they have now with like Cirque du Soleil and stuff like that. But I grew up with elephants, lions, tigers, bears, camels, horses, like trapeze artists, clowns, jugglers, like proper traditional circus, like real circus.
Okay.
So the traditional way there is that it's treated as a business. So everyone works. From the moment you can walk and you can pick something up, you're expected to do some form of labor to help the family out.
So it was your family's business. So it was your immediate, like mom, dad, brother, sister. It was a family business.
Yeah, family business. Yeah.
Okay.
So my dad's one of like 10 kids.
Oh wow.
A big family, specifically designed by my grandfather to have a troupe for the circus.
Sure.
He calculated it.
Yeah.
And worked out. Everything's business related in my family. Everything. There's no emotion in anything. It's all business related. It's carefully calculated. So they all had their different areas. The eldest would do this, the second oldest would do this. Some would be in charge of finance, some would be in charge of training. My grandfather was a phenomenal sales and marketing genius. And this is back in the day, obviously long before internet. I think internet was probably just kind of coming on the scene, but this is before I was born. Obviously, certainly no social media, no Twitter, no Facebook, no Instagram. Everything was newspaper, radio, and leaflets. So he would work 2-3 grounds ahead, and he would start the process of marketing in what people now call a sales funnel. He would start that on a manual point of view 3 towns ahead.
Okay. All right.
So when we're in one town, there would be people, he would have different steps, and it was like the warm up. So the 3rd town furthest away, the circus is coming. It's like a little taster. What you're going to expect. Then 2 weeks in, you suddenly see more posters and a little bit more, maybe a little newspaper ad or something like that. Then a week before going in, artists on the radio and, all that sort of stuff. And then by the time we used to come into the town, oh my God, Corey, like we did proper parades.
What is that? What is that? What do you mean?
So we would pull in overnight. And this always used to be my favorite part. I never used to like anything else. I used to love this, right? So we used to pull in at night and we'd build the big top through the middle of the night. It took us probably about 4 or 5 hours to build a big top, a tent big enough for about 1,000 people.
Okay.
So then we'd sleep for a little bit. We'd go to bed at maybe midnight, get up at 4 or 5 o'clock. This is where it all comes into play now.
Right.
And then we would get ready. We would get our best costumes on. We had these performance like trailers and stuff like that were pulled by horse and carts. Or my mum used to sit on an elephant. My dad used to sit on a camel, and it's actually how they were married as well. They were married on an elephant and a camel.
Oh, wow.
And we used to parade through the town, through the main high street.
No shit.
A music bands, clowns. People would be giving out like tickets, like 2-for-1 tickets, stuff like that. It was always that, trying to get people hooked in. There'd be clowns there were doing balloon modeling. They'd be doing juggling. Like, I was like maybe probably about 5 was when I really kind of started training. So I could do a little bit, not much juggling, but I could do 2 balls. So I would do a little bit as well. And you'd be like, oh my God, he's doing something as well. And it was that real family section, and we would build it up to fit. And our whole goal was to fill the tent every single night. We used to do 2 shows a night, Monday through to Friday. And then on Saturday we did 3 shows. Sunday we did 2 shows. And then we finished at 6 o'clock. We were pulled down by 10 o'clock. We were on to the next town in the evening. So we used to sleep through the night. So I used to sleep in like the cubby hole underneath the cab in the lorry. That was pretty much my bed. We used to sleep in between grounds,
Right.
But we lived in a caravan as well, so it wasn't quite as bad as that. But that was the life, and that was my life up until I was about 13, 14, really.
Now, what about school? Did you go to school?
So we had a teacher that used to travel around with us.
Okay.
And he taught us the basics of English, maths, writing, stuff like that. And we used to travel abroad a lot as well. So there was times that they couldn't get visas for me, and at the time it was only my eldest sister. Me and my 2 cousins were the only ones on the show. So we had to go to boarding school then. And we went to boarding school. It was obviously, you stay there, you get up at this time, my school was run by nuns. So it was, back when you had the cane, and I used to get in a lot of trouble when I was a kid. We lived, the school was in a castle. It's called Alton Castle, and typical castle, it had like secret passages and stuff like that. So I remember one time I got caught at midnight with my cousin, and we'd gone out of our dorm, gone down the hall into the library, pulled this book off this bookshelf, and it opened this door. We went down the spiral staircase that took us to the kitchen.
What?
And this true story, it's still there now. This castle's actually now reopened as a school again. And it was like an escape route for back in medieval times. But it went through to the kitchen. So me and my cousin used to sit there and eat chalk ices.
What?
So chalk ices, it's like a block of ice cream just covered in chocolate.
No kidding.
Like a block of like vanilla ice cream, probably about that big.
Yeah.
Covered in chocolate, and they were all the rage back in the 80s. So we used to sit there and we would just eat until pretty much we threw up. Like that was how. Anyway, one night we were a little bit louder. The nun came down. I was kind of like passed out on top of the freezer because I'd eaten so many chalk ices. My cousin had scarpered. He'd done a runner, so I got caught, and I got the cane. Like so, and from then on, I was marked as like a troublemaker. But what was interesting was I was always making money even as a kid. So, because there was all these rich kids that were there. So I used to make money off a lot of them. But I'd find out they'd want chalk ices. I'd sneak down and I'd make them chalk ices and get them. And I'd charge them like 50p. So by the end of the term, when my parents came to pick us back up, I'd produce money to my mum and go, "This is my share of the family business." She'd be like, "What have you done?" So I used to tell her. She used to laugh her head off. My mum was a very special person. My dad was like, I could tell he admired it, but he was obviously quite annoyed at the same
time. That's so funny.
So I was a crazy kid, and this was everywhere I went. I was always known. Like, my main job in the show when I was younger was to sell flags in the interval. So we'd have these little circus flags, and they're nothing special, like, plastic and nothing fancy. And I was quite a cute little kid. I had long blonde hair, big brown eyes. I was just big smile, that sort of thing. So whilst everyone was selling flags for a pound, I used to sell them for £2.
Okay.
Because I literally look and I'd be like this, wave them and be like, £2?
And because you were cute, you would get the £2.
I got away with murder, man, every time. Got away with murder. So again, the same thing. We used to have to, it was a very business orientated environment. So we took the flags in and they used to be counted in. So we counted out to us. So we had 20 flags out. How many flags do we have come back in? If we had 10 coming back in, then we should have £10 in our pocket. So that's exactly what I did. In my other pocket, I used to go round to my mum and go, "Here's the other £10." And she'd be like, at first they were really mad. They were like, "What's going on?" What happened was they then realized that they could put the price up. So they put the price up for everyone. So the whole family benefited in the long run by me being cheeky.
So what's interesting about that, right? So it's like the guy that ran the 4-minute mile. Nobody did it until he did it. Roger Bannister.
Yeah.
Same thing. You made that happen because you I guess you just tried it at one, or you saw that there could be an opportunity there, and so you believed you could get the $2, and you did. And so in reality, so you set the bar for everybody.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it just developed. My education, or my real education, came from that life, because when I was old enough, I used to go out. We used to call it billing, basically marketing. I used to go out with my grandfather, and he would teach me how to get people's attention and how to build up some kind of, like, what's the word, energy.
Sure.
With things coming and stuff like that, and how much effort. I mean, this guy I get up at 4 o'clock. He used to get up at 3 o'clock, right? And he wouldn't go to bed till 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, he slept like 2-3 hours a night. Like, I swear to God, one of the hardest workers I've ever known, even now. And he died many years ago. But yeah, like, just work ethic came from him. Marketing came from him. Finance came from my mother. She was very good with money, and she always taught me to only spend 20%. The rest you pay all the bills, and then you put all the money back into the business, but keep that 20% for you. And within that 20%, split it out here, then everywhere. And I developed these systems now to make life a lot easier with banking systems and things. My father was we had a very much a working relationship, and it always has been, even up until this day. It's still a working relationship. If we don't need each other for something business related, we can go for months without talking to each other. It's just, that's just the life I grew up in. But we travel the world.
And you said you did that till you were 14, right?
Yeah, about 13, 14. But I've got a picture on my wall. It's a magazine, and my boys call it the legacy wall, because it's, as we do stuff, we're going to start putting stuff up, and it's 2 paragraphs about all the accomplishments that my parents and family achieved when they were in the circus. And it starts like this: performed in front of the royal family 3 times at the Royal Variety Show.
Wow.
Performed in front of the Prince and Princess of Monaco. Summoned by the Sultan of Oman. Won the World Championships 3 years. Royal opera shows, pantomimes, literally, just the list just kept, and there wasn't even half of what they actually did. It had to be summed up into 2 paragraphs. So that when you come into my house, that's the first thing that you see.
That's pretty damn cool, though.
And it's a reminder to me to push
Yeah,
and to be
I
better.
bet.
Yeah, because I got a lot to live up to.
No kidding. That's insane. Wow. Okay. So what did you do after that? Age 14, you then went to like a regular school or no?
So I went into regular school. I was a good athlete because of like the acrobatics and the trapeze and all that sort of stuff. So I went into gymnastics, athletics, rugby. I played rugby for a long time, and just lived, I suppose, what's called a normal life.
Yeah.
I got into chefing. I could always cook. My grandmother taught us to cook. That was just, I remember popping peas and rolling meatballs, at like 5 years old.
Sure.
That was, all the kids used to do it. She was very much a feeder and an entertainer. So it was, we used to sit down and have these massive, massive meals, like the whole show, all the artists, everyone. So we're talking 30, 40 people a night. She used to cook for 3 times a day. So breakfast, dinner, breakfast, lunch and dinner. And that's all she did. So it was kind of natural for me to go into restaurants.
Right. Makes sense.
I knew how to cook. I knew how to entertain. And I was like, what else do I do? So I started the process. I became a chef. And I worked my way up. I remember sitting in front with my head chef and he said, look, you're a good chef. You could be a great chef, but I think you're better front of house. And I took that as an insult. I was like, well, what's wrong with me? Why am I not good enough to be in the kitchen? And he said, no, he said, you're designed to be a leader. He said, you're not designed to be in the back. You're designed to be in the front and build things. And he could tell that. So I made the transition. I went front of house and worked up to operations level. And when I first got hold of the first business, the first restaurant chain, I grew it from 30 million to 90 million.
Dang. That's a pretty sizable difference.
And that was the first one. I was like, I had all the ideas. I'd been hounding with them, and I was waiting and constantly learning and honing the skills and really trying to understand how it worked. And this was still pre-social media. Like we hadn't hit social media yet.
Right.
So it was still newspapers, PR, radio, TV, like all that kind of like traditional stuff, word of mouth, biggest thing, word of mouth, referrals and things like that. And I used to have these systems that when a new customer would come in that had never been to the restaurant, they used to have a different colored napkin that was put down on the table.
And how would you know?
The manager,
how would you know? By just ask them?
No, so if I brought someone, let's say I brought someone in,
okay.
So they weren't on a list because you had a booking list, so they had to be kind of booked in. And we always used to mark if they were regular or new customer. So if they were a new customer, they had a red napkin, and that was the server would go, the host would go down, put the red napkin down. Everyone then knew that was a brand new customer. Everyone in the whole restaurant knew that was a brand new customer. The chef knew, the bartender knew, everyone. So it was extra special attention on top of what we already did. Extra attention went to this one person. When they finished their meal, the manager, whoever manager was on duty, would come and say, and they'd be specific about the meal they had. We would know what they had, whether it was a ribeye steak medium rare with pomme de frites, whether it was garlic mayonnaise, all those. We knew the menu. We had to know the menu and what they had. We go, hey, look, did you have a chance? Do you want to try like this, like the ice cream or the brownie or something like that? Oh no, I'm full. I tell you what I'll do. Business card comes out. Your next visit, I'm gonna give you 50% off on the brownie. Are you sure? Yeah, 100%. Boom, write it down. Here's my card. Show next time you come in, show this to the person, and then they'll get it sorted. So they'd come back in, let's say a couple of weeks later. I got this card from Roe. Give me 50% off a brownie. Of course, no problem. Come right on in. Come right on in. So they sit down. The napkin was orange by this point.
Okay.
Yeah. Or like a yellowy kind of color. So everyone knew this was a second visit. Same thing again, same process. You come in again? Hey, did you have time to kind of did you have time to try the wings, or we picked something that was there?
Sure.
No, I didn't get a chance. I tell you what, you come in again, and you can have them free. You can have them absolutely free. Here you go, no problem. So they cut again, same thing again. They come in a third time. I got these free wings. Great, no problem. Come in. The fourth one was a case of, look, I tell you what. The next time you come, bring a friend, and your meal's on me.
Shit.
So the fourth one. Now, what happens with that is you look at it from a maths point of view. The first, second, and third time, you've got about a 20% chance that someone will come back.
That's all?
Yeah, 20%. And this goes across any business as well, I might add. I've tried it numerous times. The fourth visit, or the third visit, sorry, after the third visit, they've got a 75% chance of coming back.
Dang.
The fourth visit, if they bring a friend, they've got a 95% chance of becoming a customer for a long time.
That's incredible.
And that will go with, you can apply that to pretty much any business. If you put that system into any business on a referral scheme and everyone calls it retargeting now, I guess. So you can do it with through Facebook ads or face-to-face, and you get that fourth visit, you've pretty much got that customer, unless you screw up. All those visits have to be flawless.
Right.
Those experiences have to be flawless, right? They have to be better than what they were the time before. But yeah, you got to get them for a long period of time, get them in 4 visits every time.
That's fantastic.
And that's how I grew it. That was the main way I grew it.
And so you've used that throughout other businesses throughout your life.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like, I've never heard anybody break it down like that. It's so simple, but so, and then also it sounds like to me that you also, in that process, you're also training your people kind of to always be on, always to be, stepping up just a little bit more, because I'm sure there's always someone that's new in the restaurant. And so it's almost infectious, right?
Yeah. 100. I mean, I'm just looking at my whiteboard now because I actually wrote them all down. I have 30 thoughts and theories that when I train people, I go through them step by step, that they learn it so well, they can do it as easy as walking. And these 30 thoughts and theories are all related to customer service and success, time management and productivity, thinking ahead, financial, marketing. Like, I've just, over the years, just developed them to such a point that I want to get you on a subconscious level,
right?
So that you don't have to think about it, because the quicker, you know what it's like with habits. The quicker it gets into that, the basal ganglia, the better your brain's gonna keep it, and it's gonna stay longer.
So, all right. So I want to wrap up in just a second, but you hit on the subconscious mind. So I think that's important, and it's been a very common conversation with almost every person that I've come in contact with via this podcast. And so, about 90% of what we do, maybe higher, is run on a subconscious level. So give me an example of, well, I guess you kind of just gave me an example of how, you kind of imprint into their subconscious mind. Give me another example of how somebody maybe listening can relate to or understand better about how they subconsciously do things that they're not consciously aware of. Okay,
so a really easy one is called the bubble bath theory.
Okay.
And this is actually one of my theories, one of my thoughts. So when you run a bath,
sure,
you don't turn the tap on and sit there and watch it, do you?
Typically, no. I don't typically run baths, but if I were to, then no.
Well, you would put some of the bubble bath in.
Sure.
You may go to the toilet. You may brush your teeth. You may go put the kettle on. You may light some candles. Like, you do a number of different things without thinking about it. You just naturally do it because it's stuff either you've been taught as a child, That's what happens. Or you've watched it somewhere, or it's just how you relax. Normally, when you go for a bath, it's a relaxing mode. It's something you'll do in the evening because de-stress, and that's how marketing is done, is all about the bath for de-stressing and stuff like that. So these elements of getting ready for bed, brushing your teeth, putting, cream on or something like, whatever kind of, that sort of stuff. Like,
Sure.
you don't think about those tasks. You just do them. There was a time when you did think about them.
Yes.
There was a time when your brain really processed them. For instance, my boys go through it now. When I say brush your teeth, and they go like this because they want me to know, have they cleaned them properly? No, a little bit here, a little bit there, circles, all that sort of stuff. So they're going through that learning phase now, but by the time they're older, they ain't even going to think twice about it.
That's very true.
It's a multi, and that's a prime example that I think a lot of people can relate to, with having a bath or making a coffee, putting a kettle on. You don't, if you looked at what you do on a daily basis, driving is another prime example. There's a lot of stuff you do subconsciously that you just don't think about it because you do it, and it's from consistently training and learning so well that the brain no longer thinks about it. Doesn't have to think about it because it will process it. It wants to process that habit as fast as possible, so it doesn't have to work as hard. The brain's super lazy.
Right.
Super lazy muscle. It takes a lot to work it, but once you get those good or bad habits, it's cemented in there, and then it's up to you from discipline to keep those good habits going, because it's very easy to go back to the bad stuff, go back to the bad habits quite easily.
That's right.
But it's, for me, I think there's loads of different like times and stuff like that. I've always found that 12 weeks is the benchmark. From day one of when you first learn something, if you do that consistently every single day, no days off, every single day for 12 weeks, it will become a lifelong habit, no matter what it is you do.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's funny when you brought up the car thing. It's like, you don't think about how to back out of the driveway. You just fucking back out of the driveway.
Yep.
And so when you were 16, you checked the mirror, you checked every mirror, and, there was a process of different shit you had to do. But now, a great example is you just do it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's interesting.
Your shoelaces is another one.
So true.
Where there was a time when you really thought and probably got very frustrated at tying shoelaces.
Right.
But then eventually you got it. Probably about 12 weeks time, you got it. You don't think about it anymore. You just do it. Hell, I don't even tie my shoelaces anymore. I'm lazy. I slip them in. It's too much effort to tie them now.
Right. That's so funny.
That extra 30 seconds is too long. I have them a little bit looser so I can slip my feet in.
No, that's too funny. That is too funny. I love that. So, well, Roland, look, man, my man, I really, really, really appreciate, you coming on and doing the podcast. Where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm Twitter. I'm pretty much active on most channels. My website's being built at the moment, which is rolandsantus.co.uk. That's where I'm starting to build out a lot of content on outbound sales and marketing that will just be free content that's going to go out there to literally help as many kind of people as possible to just help grow their businesses. I've been lucky. I've gone from 49 pence to now a 6-figure business 2 years later with ups and downs, and it's going to continue to grow. So yeah, the website's probably the best place, and then from there, they can follow me wherever or tell me to shut up, whatever they want to do.
Well, Roland, thank you so much. Again, I do appreciate your time, dude. And I know the people listening I know they've enjoyed the hell out of this story and your life story as much as I did the first time. So it got just as good the second.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother, and I'll talk to you soon.
Brilliant.
All
Take
right.
care.
Bye-bye.